welcome to another episode of the How Long to Beat podcast. I'm your host, Paula, joined today as always by Josh or Avatash.
What's up, everybody?
And today we bring you the games we've beaten. We haven't retired anything recently, but we've been playing quite a bunch of stuff. And for our discussion topic of the week, we have physical gaming and cultural differences, sparked by a little something going on in Chile with one of our big two at this point stores. And finally, we'll go for a round of Guess the Game, where Josh will quiz me on the game with this week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I haven't beaten shit, so take it away, Josh.
Yep, so I get to talk a lot again, at least in the beginning. Don't have heaps, though, to talk about, but I played a game called TOHU, which is TOHU, which is a point-and-click adventure, and it was freaking awesome. Just one of those random games that I had in my library that I didn't really know much about, and was just looking at different point-and-click games to play, because I've had a bit of a keen eye on point-and-clicks lately, and TOHU has basically, it's got a kind of cartoony graphic style, but the animation and the graphics are like some of the best in the biz. And I was very surprised to load up this weird little indie game and just see some amazingly smooth and very high fidelity and well put together animations and some very creative designs and that sort of thing. Because essentially you play as, well, it's kind of a bizarre design world, but that's kind of what's cool about it. Because you're in a world where planets are fish. So
That's the thing I'm looking at.
Yeah. So they're small, like they might only be as big as, say, a few houses, but they're known as planets. They're basically big fish that people live on. And on your planet that you're on, there's like some evil shadow dude who shows up and starts messing with everything. And there's like a machine that they break, which is kind of keeping everything together. So you go and visit your uncle, and because he's like an inventor and stuff, and he says, you got to go do this. And so you end up traveling to lots of different fish, i.e. planets, and doing some puzzles and stuff on each one to get different components and stuff to then bring back to the original planet, fix the machine, and sort everything out, essentially. And on each planet, there's basically kind of like a boss, if you want to call it that. It's not like a fight or anything, but there's someone living there who basically runs the place. So you have to kind of convince them to give you what you need. And they're all kind of weird and kooky and have their own little needs and desires and, you know, ways of dealing with things. But it's really cool. And your character, who is a girl that you play, she can transform into like this big robot dude who can then lift up things that are heavy, and that's part of the problem solving as well. So there's some problems where you have to be the big robot guy so that you can lift up something heavy, take it somewhere else, maybe fill up a big jug full of water or something and take it to another machine. Or you can knock down planks and stuff so that you can build bridges from place to place, or, you know, different things like that. Or if you're the girl, then the girl can like crawl into smaller spaces and move a bit faster and jump around and that kind of thing. So you have to kind of balance between the two of them and see, you can swap between the two at will whenever you want. And yeah, solve the puzzles.
It looks kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. No, I just saw like a 3P section where they're like a stairs section. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit all different angles.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that one painting drawing, and I don't remember where it was. But
like
it
an
looks
MC
really,
Escher kind of painting.
Yeah.
Or drawing.
Yeah, it looks really charming. And yeah, the animations are really smooth. Like at first, it reminded me a little bit about like of Deponia because of like I guess like the cartoonish style and colors.
Yep.
But it looks way different now that I really look at it. Like of how the world moves and looks and works.
This is definitely one that you want to look at a trailer to see everything in movement. Because it's got that cartoony, it's got a very solid cartoony kind of style to it that is very, you know, clean and precise and very easily to understand. But when everything's in motion, it's just, that's when it's really cool.
Yeah.
That like, there's some scenes where I just kind of sat there looking at things because each scene is like full of different things. There's little animals like crawling around and stuff, and there's different characters doing stuff, and yeah, it's just so much fun to just check out what's going on in each scene and perhaps interact with things and, you know, make them do different stuff. But yeah, those animations are really what made it stand out, and kind of, to me, it's like top of the class.
Yeah, definitely.
The rest of the game is like, the puzzles are fairly easy to complete, and, you know, the game's fairly straightforward to get through. But yeah, the obviously the people working on this were very strong in their art department.
Yeah, definitely.
On top of everything else, because, you know, it's obviously well programmed and put together, obviously, as well, but it really shines on those animations. So definitely worth checking out. I also finished Projekt, or Projekt, which I talked about last week. This is the kind of 3-dimensional Picross game where you get like a 2D representation of where to put cubes within a matrix, and you basically put them all in the right spot. And when you fill the pattern, it shows you the pattern from like it shows you the 3-dimensional shape that you've made from like one angle to show that it makes that particular shape, and then it turns it around to another angle so that you can see that you've made the other particular shape. And it's just a cool little puzzle game. Again, not very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kind of just put my mind to it for about an hour or two and breezed through all the levels I had left. And I'm not that smart, so it definitely wasn't that challenging. There are ways that you can make it challenging for yourself, like much like automation games. You can kind of do the thing where you can create the result using as many blocks as possible, or as few blocks as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can also do it in Picross mode, where you have to do, it'll say you need 5 blocks in this column and 1 in that column, and so on and so forth. So there are different ways that you can do it, and some are more difficult than others. I tended to go for as few blocks as I could, because that just appealed to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can get really efficient by, you know, it'll tell you you're like 3 blocks over the minimum. So it's kind of fun to look through and think, I could erase this one and it's not going to make any difference to the result. And, you know, just kind of get really efficient with it that way. But good little puzzle game. It's very, you know, if you do look it up and see what it looks like and watch a trailer or something, it's very much that for the whole game. Just gets, you know, a little bit more complicated. And yeah, if you like that kind of thing, you're going to like this, because it's cool and a little bit different, but pretty easy either way. Yeah. Another game I played, which was one I got free with Amazon Prime, was one called Behind the Frame, The Finest Scenery. And this is kind of like a story narrative game where, with, again, beautiful art and animation. It looks like it's kind of a anime style animation.
A Ghibli movie.
Yeah, it looks like a Studio Ghibli kind of style graphics, I guess, if you want to call it that. But it has an interesting thing where you do play as a couple of different characters over time, but essentially you start off and you're playing as a woman who is an artist, and you're in her apartment, and in front of you is a blank canvas, and you have a notebook that you can open up, and you can see that she's made a little sketch of what the canvas should look like. So you grab your paints and you start colouring in, essentially, different parts of the painting, but you don't have all the colours on you. So in order to do that, you need to progress the story, because then you unlock things and you find different tubes of paint and that kind of thing to then complete the painting that you're working on. And so the interesting thing is that it does is you kind of, when you're doing something, you'll get like a 2D animation, and then you'll be looking at a screen where you're painting a picture or something. But then it has moments where it'll kind of put you in the center of your room, and you can pan around it like it's a 3-dimensional space.
Yeah.
You can't like move around in it, but you can kind of pan around and look at the space as if it's a 3D space. Kind of like if you're on Google's Street View or something, without being able to move.
Yeah, kind of.
But and then, yeah, there's cool things you got to do in there as well. Like you can, again, there's a couple of little light puzzles to solve to unlock things and find art supplies and that sort of stuff. You're also very interested in your neighbor who's across the way. Like your window looks at their window, and they're another artist. So you kind of voyeuristically end up in their space and looking at their paintings and that sort of thing. And there's story behind that and all that kind of thing. But I actually really loved it, because I really like this kind of game anyway, where it's very story heavy and very kind of simple gameplay, but very well executed. Again, the art is amazing. It's, top of the class. The story, I think, was written pretty well and presented very well. They didn't kind of just hit you over the head with everything. They just let you experience it as you played the game. And yeah, it was a very satisfying game. It's the kind of game I kind of, if it lasted a bit longer or went a bit more in depth, I reckon I would have been down for it because it was pretty short. I think it was only a few hours or an hour or two long, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it is a fairly short game. I actually played this one like a while ago.
Oh, nice.
And I really like it up until things got a little bit weird near the end.
Yeah.
But that was like a small blemish on the beautiful, beautiful game that it actually is.
Yeah. And I love games where they make you do art as well, just because
Yeah.
I hate saying it, but as an artist, I'm obviously interested in that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it speaks to me anyway. But yeah, just a good little narrative kind of game that, hey, I picked up free from Amazon Prime, so I was happy to play it and enjoyed it. So yeah. I also finished Injustice 2, which I spoke about last week, I think, or the week before, sometime recently. And that's the DC and Marvel fighting game, essentially. There was Injustice. Now there's Injustice 2, although it's pretty old. I think it's not very new, but it's cool though. I like it. It's like a good twist on the whole story. The way I think the success of the first game and then this sequel, it's how they managed to justify having all these characters fighting each other. So, Superman and Batman are enemies, and so you've got Wonder Woman and the Flash and Aquaman and a whole bunch of different dudes and girls, and Catwoman and Poison Ivy's in there as well. Yeah, there's a whole heap of villains and heroes who are all mixed up, and no one's on the side that they used to be on. And yeah, it's a really cool story that I like because it just kind of puts a twist on the usual superhero stories that we've heard. Because basically, Superman is the bad guy. And for good reason too. Like there's justification for that from the first game. But this game introduces another, basically Supergirl, I guess she would be. But she has a name. I forget what it was though. But she was like she was like one of the big characters introduced in Injustice 2. She's basically another Kryptonian who's I think a cousin of Superman who escaped at the same time he did, kind of thing. And Brainiac, who destroyed Kryptonian, Krypton is now attacking Earth, and that's why everyone's trying to band together to fight away Brainiac, who's another villain. So, so yeah. Interestingly enough, for a fighting game, I really like the story, but I think that's kind of what NetherRealm do best these days. Who are the devs who make it, and they also make the Mortal Kombat series. And Injustice plays very similarly to Mortal Kombat. With same sort of fighting styles, I guess, if you want to call it that. Or same kind of thinking, I suppose, as opposed to, say, Tekken, which feels a certain way, or Street Fighter, which feels a certain way. Mortal Kombat, I think, feels a certain way, and Injustice feels very much like Mortal Kombat, which makes sense because it's from the same studio. So
yeah, I was looking at that.
Yeah, it's the Mortal Kombat guys do superheroes. So I'm a fan of that because Mortal Kombat's my favorite fighting game series. So I'm down. But it was good fun. It was, again, not too long, kind of pretty quick to get through just the story because obviously it's a fighting game, so it's not meant to be a single player campaign, but it's in there and it's a good one. So I definitely recommend checking it out. I played it through PlayStation Plus on PS5, and I think you can kind of get it on Game Pass and PS Plus and those sorts of things fairly easily. I think so, but don't quote me. Yeah, it was good, and I would happily recommend it. But that's all I've completed this week. Not a whole lot to go on. I'm still bashing away at all the usual stuff. I did play a bit more Baldur's Gate 3, but don't really have anything to say about that. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it.
Well then.
So what about what we've been playing? Because we haven't retired anything, so we're doing good. I see it as a plus that we haven't retired anything for a long time.
Yeah.
It means we've found good games and we've stuck with them.
Even though some of them are on completion limbo, but let's not talk about that one.
On hold is not retired.
True.
I have
So,
lots of those.
so I'm still playing a lot of Apollo Justice Ace Attorney on Nintendo Switch, and I have to say, like, I'm pretty happy that they didn't go with the 3D model route, and they more or less kept the original art style of the game. Uh, Unlike the original Ace Attorney trilogy that is out on pretty much everything by this point. Like they try to do like an HD and thing and really smooth out the graphics. Well, I think like the DS and 3DS version has a little bit more charm to it because of how it looks like a little bit more crunchy in a way.
Yeah.
Um, but with the Evil Justice Ace Attorney trilogy, like the first game is still like 2D, and the other games have 3D models. But I'm very happy what they did with the first one. I guess the fourth game in this year so far. um, so I very much wrap up the first trial where I had to defend a very well-known character here. And of course, there was like a lot of fuckery because, of course, there's a lot of fuckery in these games. So I have to say, like, at the release, like from the mainline Ace Attorney games, this one has like I guess, the longest first case or tutorial case
Okay.
um, from the main series. So if you count like the Great Ace Attorney games, like holy crap, the Great Ace Attorney has like quite the long trial for the first case because the actual culprit just didn't want to admit her fault. I remember she did though. Anyway, and so in uh Apollo Justice, I already met like the uh quote unquote Maya equivalent, aka the sidekick for to Apollo, aka Trucy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, like, she's so fun. I love her so much. She's a firecracker, right? Um, and she more or less not cares, but like just pushes and pulls Apollo around because he doesn't like really have anything else to do at this point of the game. So I'm on the second case, which is Turnabout Corner, and holy crap, I didn't remember. Like I completely forgotten the fact that this one starts like all over the place. Like there are like in theory like three distinct cases with which are kind of related to one another. Um, I'm gonna leave it at that because more would be a spoiler. But I'm happy because I've met like two other of the key characters of the game. Uh, who knows where Gamshu is from the first trilogy? But we got Emma Sky, and I wrote that incorrectly. There's an E there. So Emma is kind of like a character that has made an appearance like on the series before. She was on the first game of the Ace Attorney series. She's like one of the key characters of the last case.
Okay.
And I'm talking about the bonus case on the DS version because the original GBA version didn't have that last case. So in her her case was kind of like a showcase of what the DS could do at the time. Like you
Mm-hmm.
could use like the touchscreen to sprinkle like the white powder you used to dust the fingerprints, for example.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And you could blow on the microphone to pretty much go that wet powder go away and just have the fingerprint left. And
That's cool.
there were and it also made use of the fact that the DS could kind of like manage 3D models in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Not very detailed 3D models, but still good enough 3D models. So you were able like to inspect items like from different angles and actually be the one to find little clues and on the evidence that was kind of like very important on that particular case. Well, she is back as the head detective on the game. She's kind of mad because she wanted to be a forensic scientist, but things didn't quite go her way. So most of the time she's either pouting because she's not able to do the things she really wants to do, or she's mad at Clavia, who is the prosecutor on this game. Who, by the way, I've already met outside of the courtroom. I haven't seen him in action in this playthrough because this has to be like one of my favorite prosecutors. Like most of the prosecutors on the Ace Attorney games are kind of fun, are kind of nice. Like they have their own shtick. There are like some that are like kind of evil, but they usually don't last long. There's Mr. Payne, the tutorial prosecutor, who's pretty much, I don't know how he got the job, dude. Like, he's always messing up. But anyway, but it is true. Like, I mean, it's funny because like his animation when he's like losing is he usually like loses his hair in a way. You have to see it to believe it. And in this game, like for the first case, he had like this ridiculous hairdo because he's kind like the top of his head is bald, but he had like long hair on the sides and he looked kind of funny.
Nice.
Still, you have to see it because holy crap! Like, who was his hairstylist? Who thought that looked okay? But anyway, so yeah, like on case 2 or episode 2 at this point, and I'm still just investigating. It's been like, let me check real quick because holy crap. So I've been like an hour and 20 minutes just investigating like the first day because the trials on this game take 3 days. So you have usually 3 investigations and 3 trials. But yeah, like the game itself is not very long. I think it's like 20 to 30 hours. 21 hours, I think, methinks.
Not long at all.
Like, come on. Like, if you see like the other games in the series, like that ain't too bad. Like, actually, let me check real quick. Like, for the first case that it had, like that isn't like really long at all. Like, Dual Destinies is 30 hours. Spirit of Justice is 37 hours. Like,
Wow.
and
Okay.
don't even get me started on adventures on the Ace Attorney games because they're like 2 parts of the same story, and between the 2 of them, it's almost like 70 hours. So yeah, 21
Cool.
hours for an Ace Attorney game ain't that bad.
Yeah. No. Fair enough.
So yeah, I'm pretty happy to be in this part of the game. I really hope I enjoyed as much as I did, even though some people kind of like look at it like the black sheep of the like the mainline Ace Attorney games. Like I don't really know why. Like you either love it or hate it, I guess. But anyway, the other,
Interesting.
I guess it's because the gimmick it has that's kind of weird. Um, like at the very least, it was in the first trial, but I don't think it was like it wasn't badly implemented, but it was weirdly written, like how out of
Right.
nowhere, like he started like saying saying like things like, "Hey, on that part of your testimony, when you recall the the victim being hit on the back of the head, like you're kind of like scratching the back of your neck. Are you right?" And I'm like, I don't know like how that line of questioning was allowed in the courtroom, but anyway, it's just a game.
Okay. Yeah.
I've seen weirder stuff like, come on, like the parrot takes the stand. There was an actual parrot testifying on one of the games. So
Checks
I've
out.
seen worse.
Cool.
So yeah, before I go crazy talking about that one, let's go to Not Tonight, which is the game that Josh picked for me to play. Since he won the last iteration of our little guessing game, he
That's right.
picked Not Tonight, which is kind of like Papers, Please in a way. Because you have to, like, I guess, control the entrance of people, but instead of you pretty much being the person like in charge of, hey, are you entering to this country or not? It's just like you have like little jobs here and there. And for example, my first job here was pretty much like being at the front of a pub and only letting in people who had like a valid ID and were like 18 years or older, which, by the way, some of the people that try to enter the pub, they kind of think that you're stupid or something because okay, it's like the 2nd of January at the start, like when you're actually working at this job, and like it's 2018, I think. So people have to be born like earlier that the 2000s, or like just the first 2 days of the 2000s. Um, so people think that you're stupid or something because, like, you look at their ID. They were born like on mid 2000, and they expect you to let them in like on the first day of 2018. And I'm like, oh, dude or lady, you're not 18. Fuck off. And then they take their ID. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go to the other pub. I'm like, you're not allowed in there. You're a minor. You dance.
Yep.
So yeah, I passed the first day with almost flying colors. I think I had like 1 or 2 left to get like the second bonus, money bonus. And oh yeah, by the way, when you start the game, you're able like to pick like the appearance, the voice, and like one of the 3 available backgrounds for your character. And in my case, I got like the Spanish family background. So more or less, what happens is that your citizenship on England kind of like gets revoked, and it's like, well, you've been relocated to this shitty apartment, and if you want to survive and actually be welcome in this country, you have to make set amount of money like on the first month. And I'm like, dude, I'm barely earning like minimum wage over here. How am I supposed to get that amount of money?
Yep.
So I was given a letter, a set of instructions, and a broken phone, which is fun. So yeah, like I also noticed that you can like level up some stuffs, which I'm not sure how it affects the game yet. So yeah, like the job description says I'm a monster, whatever that means. I don't know. I guess I just like
I guess maybe that's like an English thing, like to call security people bouncers, because we call them bouncers here as well. They're basically people who man the door at clubs and pubs and that sort of thing, and they'll turn people away. They'll tell them they're not allowed to come in. They'll get rid of drunk people.
yeah,
That
it
kind of thing.
actually says slang for a person employed at a club, disco, etc. to throw at drunks or troublemakers, and subtitles considered undesirable from entering.
So
Well then.
in the game, I think it's like I think the game was made either during the Brexit vote or just before it, because it's kind of like imagining a worst case scenario where England has gone full into Brexit and just cut themselves off from the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's kind of like during Brexit, according like from what I gathered. So this is quite interesting. So yeah, it right now it has like less moving parts, like during the actual job than Papers, Please, but you have like more freedom between jobs in a way.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a breath of fresh air, even though like the main mechanic is something I've seen before. So yeah, that is not tonight. I hope I can continue playing it like for the time being.
Yeah, I've got to give it a play as well to remind myself because it's been a while since I played it because I played it pretty much when it came out.
Oh,
And yeah.
So yeah, like what have you been playing?
Nothing crazy, although one of them might be a bit interesting for some people. But I continue playing Super Adventure Hand, which I mentioned already, where you play as a hand that is trying to get through levels and there are feet who are coming against you. Yeah, and you move around like a spider, but you're a hand. So there's that. It's cool. I don't really have heaps to say about it. It's more just going through the levels. I looked it up and I think there's like 50 levels total. So I'm at about level 25 or something, about halfway through. And they just kind of get more complex each time and introduce new elements and stuff. And it's essentially like 3D platforming / puzzling / a little bit of physics, I guess. Because I'm at a level now I recently did a level where there was basically 4 buttons that needed to be all pressed down at the same time to then reveal the exit. But to do that, there were like garbage bags around the level and ice. So you grab a garbage bag and you kind of slide down some ice to take it where you need to go. So it's a little bit difficult because it doesn't quite go as you want it to. And you kind of leave it on top of a button and then you go grab another garbage bag and, pull it onto another button and so on and so forth. And so that was a bit frustrating because I didn't realize you could actually grab onto the bags when I first started, because as the hand, you've got a number of moves where you can either grab onto something or you can flick something, which essentially will, hit it away from you, or you can like basically jump on top of things that might move. So you can like use your weight to kind of change the orientation of things. So initially I was just going out to these garbage bags and trying to like flick them towards where I wanted them, but they kept falling off the level and respawning until I realized I could actually just grab them and pull them along, which made it a million times easier. But that's essentially where I'm at with this game at the moment. Most of the time it's basically here's a level, go find a bunch of stuff you need on different branches of the level and bring it back to the center. And it could be like keys, where you go find a bunch of keys and you bring them back and put them all on the locks, and then that unlocks the exit. Or this thing like garbage bags to put stuff on the buttons, that kind of stuff. So it's very straightforward, but it's kind of interesting how they keep changing things up and not necessarily making things more difficult, but just making it a little bit challenging. It's not the kind of game that I'd get too pumped about and say, oh yeah, this is the game for everybody, you've got to go play it. It's just a fun little silly 3D platformy type game that's not annoying, because part of the fun of it being 3D platforming is as you're playing as the hand, if you don't quite make a jump, that's okay. It's very forgiving. So let's say you're jumping between columns of stone. If you don't quite make it, you'll hit the side of the column and you'll hang on to it. That's where it's like moving like a spider, because you can kind of climb up. You can climb up walls and stuff as well as just on surfaces. So a lot of the time, if you do miss, you can kind of grab something nearby and you're okay. And I appreciate that because it's 3D platforming and nobody needs that drama. So yeah, that's Super Adventure Hand. I don't think it'll take me much longer to finish. Well, I know there's 50 levels, so we'll see how long that takes. But yeah, I will finish it because it's enjoyable enough. I've been playing some more Dragon Quest Builders, which I started a while ago. And I've been dipping into it every now and then, just on PlayStation, as kind of like a bit of a mindless kind of podcasty game. Although I had to think about it a bit last time when I played, so I was a bit annoyed. No. I essentially needed to find some resources in order to craft what I need to craft. And I forgot, because I hadn't played it for a while, where to go for those resources. And I spent most of the time just kind of cruising around doing nothing for like an hour until I figured out again, oh, that's right, there's a whole teleporty pad that you can take to go to a completely different world. And that's where my resources were that I was looking for. So my own dumbness, but I should have noticed it earlier. But it's good. There's enough of I think what I like about it is that it's open enough that you can kind of do what you want, but there's enough of like a carrot on a stick to kind of guide you on what to do next if you want to progress. So, I spent a lot of time just kind of cruising around, exploring places, gathering resources, just, mindlessly doing stuff. And then I kind of got bored of that and went, oh, I actually have objectives, so I can go do that instead. So I went and did some objectives. And
as you do.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it feels like pretend you're playing Minecraft, but you also have actual goals that are set out for you. That's what it feels like to me, anyway. So you can just kind of do the Minecrafty thing of just cruising around and looking at stuff and exploring, or you can actually go, oh, actually, there's these goals I need to accomplish. I'm going to focus on that. So yeah, still enjoying it. I'll probably slowly make my way through it over time because, yeah, like I say, I don't really progress very much when I do play it. But yeah, it's good. It's again, not something I'd necessarily go crazy over, but at the moment I'm satisfied and it's doing its job. It's doing what I want it to do. So
Which is nice. Also,
yeah.
can I add like a couple of things about Super Adventure Hunt? Because like while you were talking about it, I had to go and look at the trailers for it because I don't think I did like
Yep.
last time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like this animated trailer, like full cartoon mode, and the feet are the enemy, and this one feet is like giving the hand like the evilest side eye, and it is killing me.
Yep. That's basically the intro movie to the game, which kind of sets up the quote unquote story.
Yeah. Also,
Not
like
that there is much, but yeah.
so yeah, like also like looking at the about this game section, and yeah, like they are taking like the hand theme and like going wild with it because of how
Mm-hmm.
like the pants are so good. Like a good handful of levels.
Yep.
Customize your handsome hand.
Yep.
An exciting, nail biting story. Like it just looks so fucking silly, and I love it. I might want to play this like at some point, but not now. The backlog is strong in this one.
Well, and
Sorry.
I think that's why I think that's why Super Adventure Hand is it's kind of got its claws into me, or it's got its fingers into me, so to speak,
That
or
was so
nails.
fucking wrong. Like it has this it's a grip on you pretty much.
Yeah,
That's something worse.
yeah. It
Okay,
grabbed
moving
me.
on.
Because it's very it's silly without being crap.
Mm-hmm.
Like like how there are some just completely silly, funny indie games, but they're actually a bit shit when you play them. And they're funny for like 5 minutes and then you're like, cool, I'm done, see you later. This one is actually pretty just irreverent for the whole thing, and yeah, it's just kind of funny seeing your hand kind of cruise around. And like I think I said last time, instead of getting hats, you get watches. That's how you customize your hand.
And you can paint your nails too.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's a good silly game. And considering I'm not much of a platformer / or 3D or otherwise, I kind of figure it's got me interested, so it must be doing something right. So yeah. The only other game I've been playing is one I started recently because, again, kind of like how I've been on a bit of a point and click binge, I kind of, every now and then, I don't know why, but something that I want to do is play an FMV game because there's something about FMV games that I just love.
May I ask what is an FMV game?
So FMV stands for full motion video, which basically means it's got actual footage of actual people instead of like drawn graphics or animated graphics or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and it's kind of interesting to say the least.
So this one's a Japanese game called Love Is All Around. It's basically a dating sim, but it's FMV. So all the characters and everything are played by real people who are real actors. Well, that's a bit questionable for some of them, but they are acting.
I think this is actually like a Chinese game. Yeah, it is a Chinese game. Yep.
Oh, okay, I'm very sorry. That's horrible to get my countries crossed, but yeah. Actually, no, that would make sense. Yeah, for some of the content, but yeah. So it's basically a dating sim visual novel, but think of it as that, but with full motion video instead of drawings.
Mhm.
So you basically go through a series of scenes, and you have dialogue trees and stuff where you talk to different people and obviously different love interests and that sort of thing, as well as friends and stuff. And you make choices which will then push you down a branch one way or the other. Yeah, kind of like any other kind of visual novel dating thing. But yeah, I just really like FMV games.
Mhm. Like for a second, like I was looking at it on Steam, like I think most of the girls like move in a very natural way, but one of them kind of like moved like very stiffly or robotic. So I was like, is this an actual person, or is this a model? And no, it is an actual person who is like moving like a model.
Well, that's why I say like most of them are actors, because some of the acting is pretty bad
Yeah.
and some of the writing is pretty bad. But it's kind of, I don't know, I haven't got super deep into it to really know where it's going yet. I've played like the first half hour or an hour, I think. So yeah, I'm not really sure how good or bad it gets. So far it's just kind of setting things up. But yeah, it's fun. It's goofy. It's crap. If you have low expectations, it's a good time, basically. But I find like a lot of FMV games, like especially old games, there's an old classic one called Night Trap, which is
Yeah.
a horror kind of, or people are breaking into your house kind of game, and you've got to trap them. And that's goofy as all hell. And it's like, it's like Home Alone levels of goofy. But it's good fun and it's good time. And I really like that. And one of my favorite series of all time is the Tex Murphy series, which is an old series from the 90s that they actually made a new Kickstarted one in recent years, maybe 2017-ish, I want to say. But the Tex Murphy series include the games Under a Killing Moon and another one that was famous, which I can't remember, the Pandora Directive. And these were games that, because they were full motion video, they came on like, I had them on CD-ROM at the time, and they had like 6 CD-ROMs per game kind of thing. And those games were interesting because they basically filmed real people on a green screen and then put them into a 3D generated world.
Oh.
So yeah.
Sorry, I had to send you like the review that I found.
Yes, Paul's just linked me a review for Love's All Around, basically saying, don't go for the young girl.
Yeah.
And I just like to say that, not that I have any problem with like sexual content or anything, but this one is very, very PG. Like I don't even think there's any nudity in the whole game or anything. So it's like, it's very safe kind of dating sim.
But I'm just like the line that says, whatever you do, don't go for the young one. She springs her youth on you last minute like a trap set by the Korean police. I don't know. Yeah, that just tickles me. It's like so fucking funny.
And the last line, do not commit to the child, go with the MILF. Yeah, gotta love reviews some days.
Yeah, like especially like on this kind of game, like in dating sims in general, like some of them are so fucking funny. I love them. Like I just scroll down the reviews because some of them like are so out there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that kind of game. It's goofy, and it's, the acting's not great and the writing's kind of a bit jank here and there. I don't know if it's just because it's translated, so that could be part of it as well. But yeah, I'm basically playing it with original audio, so I don't understand what they're saying, what the actors are saying, but it's got subtitles, and that's fine for me. I watch subtitled movies all the time and everything, so I don't really care. But yeah, it's we'll check in on that some other time and see if it gets worse. But for now, it's just a bit of lighthearted fun, and yeah, something
Cheers
that you can
to
just
that.
have a bit of a laugh at. Totally, it's pure, silly entertainment is what I've been playing a lot lately, like Super Adventure Hand and FMV dating sims. Yeah, but that's it for me. Like I said, I've been playing other stuff too, but nothing to really say about any of that I haven't said already. So yeah.
So why don't we go to our list teary, in a way, discussion topic right now. I say less
Mhm.
teary because this one, like, I thought about talking about this because one of the big two gaming retail stores, I guess,
Mhm.
close stores. Like the the name of the store is Zetamart in Spanish. Some people like pronounce it like smart, but with a Z, and it's like
Okay.
no, it's Zetamart. Like they even like went and post a thing saying like, hey, yeah, it's Zetamart. Don't be stupid. But anyway, um, the thing about this store is that it's been well, it was actually like I didn't even investigate this fucking thing. Like I must let me. Uh,
Well, Paula mentioned this to me as well, and we were talking about physical games and stuff, which is kind of what made us think about talking about this in this way, because my response was basically like, there's no small stores in Australia anyway, so.
yeah. So in the case of this, like Santa Martin in particular, is to be like a store that usually brought some of the lesser known games, like before they stopped entirely bringing Otome to Chile. They were like the only store that brought Otome to Chile. Like
Mhm.
some smaller stores are like following suit now that they're like bringing Otome, but like in lesser quantities because it's kind of like a bit risk. Like the fan base here is quite small. But anyway, the thing about Zetterberg is that in the later years, especially like after the Switch release, like their games never were cheap. Like for a full retail game, like before the dollar pretty much skyrocketed into oblivion, we kind of like used to pay a fair price for games, even though it was a little bit over the $60 MSRP sometimes, depending on the price of the dollar. Uh, by the way, the United States dollar, if there was like any doubt into that. But since the dollar followed in price and they've gotten a little bit more greedy, the price of games like just went full stupid. Like a game that used to cost like I remember buying a game for like 45 thousand Chilean dollars like back in the day, or like for
Mhm.
the 3DS games and Vita games, it was like somewhere between it was like 36,000 Chilean pesos. Did I say Chilean dollars for Chilean pesos?
Yeah,
I'm stupid.
that's all right. We'll move on from
So yeah.
there.
But for example, Skull and Bones for the PS5 is a whole 75,000 Chilean pesos, which is pretty much over 75 USD. And don't even get me started on what kind of wizardry you have to even get like a console over there, because like um when the PS5 came out, like the store had it like at 1 million Chilean pesos, and that's like $1,000, and that's clearly over the retail price that it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, like this particular store, like right now, they're like I guess they're like doing like the lightning sale, like the ofertas relámpago, how they call it. So games online seem to be cheaper. The stores are already closed. And if I go to the Detective Pikachu thing right here, yeah, the fuckers haven't even like changed anything on their store page. Like, um, you can still see that there's um availability on stores, even though the stores are gone. But I guess they're still sending stuff. I don't know. So at some point, they tried to do this thing called Setamar Pass, where you pay a set amount each year, like I don't know, this was Chilean pesos. That's around 10 to 11 bucks. So if you, and that's only if you live in Santiago, so you don't have to pay shipping. And you sometimes get discounts, which on paper sounds good, but when they overprice the games for like for you to get the pass and pay like the actual price of the game, that you there you have a problem. And like even you and lately I've been like checking like the used section, which used to be heaven for me, and the prices are so bad now. Like some of the games that they have, like the Switch games, like the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Nintendo Switch games, they are like pretty much a full price or more expensive than full price. So it's stupid. And
Yeah.
don't even get me started on trying to get like a Nintendo Switch. Like you can import it like directly from Japan, and it will cost less money than buying it to these fuckers.
Wow.
Sorry, like um, as you can see, like some feelings were unearthed over here, and the main reason I stopped buying like niche games over there on Zedamart, it's because they stopped getting them on like day one, and I guess like they got some of them even like from Amazon, so it was like it is cheaper and faster for me to get it directly from Amazon instead of having like this intermediary over here.
Yeah.
Weebly is not on a much better position, I guess. They're like marginally cheaper in a way, but I guess they don't have the variety. But the smaller stores, like one that started like I think just before the pandemic, which is M4thew Games. Like let me go check it real quick. They're on Funko Pop hell because they have to sustain business in some way, and they also like sell a manga, and I don't know if like novels, but they sell manga, but their prices. Well, never mind. Like the PS5 prices are like shit, but it's still like for PS5, it's still cheaper to get it like from this mystery store, I'm gonna say, rather than get it like
Yeah.
from Setamart or like WePlay or anywhere else. And not, and even like with the big retail stores that are like, I guess, variety stores, because they have clothes and stuff and electronics and all that jazz. Like the worst thing you can do is buy it there because it's somehow even more expensive than the that's the Martin we played. So yeah. Before I go on ranting about how the smaller stores are like so much fucking better, and start talking about my favorite stores, why, or like my favorite ways to get physical games over here, why don't you uh, talk about how things are in Australia right now?
Well, I'm not the biggest physical game buyer anyway,
Mm,
just because I'm happy to have everything digital and I can get it cheaper that way most times, like 9 times
true.
out of 10. And I think part of that is because in Australia, those prices you were saying for certain games and stuff are like, yep, that's how much it would cost here, kind of thing.
Never
Like you
mind.
said, 75,000 pesos is about 120 Australian dollars. And that's pretty much how much a new PlayStation 5 game is, or Xbox game, like console game, basically. Like the latest Assassin's Creed or something, that's probably about 120 bucks when it first comes out. And it doesn't go down very quickly because it's console. So console games never go down really here unless they're on sale on like certain times during the year. But
Yeah.
for just general kind of prices, that's, yeah, they're usually pretty expensive. It used to be that the excuse was, you know, where we live in Australia and everything has to be imported so far. But that's kind of been shown to be bullshit anyway, because they sell the digital versions for the same amount of money.
Yeah.
So a new game on PlayStation as well, if it's digital, will be 120 bucks. So whatever. That's why I don't tend to buy stuff on console anyway. That's why I've got my subscriptions, and I tend to just stick with that because it's way cheaper to pay 15 bucks a month and get a bunch of games. But
Yeah. Like one of the excuses that I see for prices on the, for example, the Chilean shop versus prices on retail and stuff is that they have to make it fair for local commerce or something like that, which is like, yeah, fair, but still it is bullshit. Like even Steam like makes games cheaper for Chile versus United States.
Yeah, I mean, regional pricing and stuff should come into it with, you know, general wealth of a country. You know, if a country is typically poorer or something, like I know some like Eastern European countries which are a bit poorer, they have lower prices on Steam because it, you know, means they can actually afford to buy the games. And that's why they have like region locking sometimes, because that was kind of the problem with G2A for a while, was people buying keys in like Estonia or something, which are cheaper, and then selling them in richer countries like America and making profits kind of thing. So I can understand that. And Australia is, on the grand scheme of things, one of, you know, our baseline is kind of leaning towards the wealthier side of life. So games being more expensive here is kind of, you know, par for the course, even though they're not that affordable anyway, in my opinion, because I'm kind of an average dude and I can't afford to spend $120 all the time on games.
True.
It's not like I make so much money that that's doable. It's still expensive. But
It's still expensive as fuck, like really.
Yeah, and the interesting thing though that we were talking about before, which kind of sparked this discussion, was also there's no real, they do exist. There are small stores here that sell hard copy games, but they're basically non-existent really. And if they do exist, they tend to specialize in things like Japanese imports or something. Like there's a shop in the nearest city to me called Shin Tokyo, which does manga and anime and collectible figurines and stuff, as well as imported Switch games. So it's basically like a Japanese themed store where you can get Japanese pop culture stuff. And part of that is Japanese Switch games, but they're even more expensive than if you bought them elsewhere. Because they're all imported and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it is just a very small kind of niche store that I don't think would have shitloads of customers, but enough to keep it going.
True.
Because it's been around for a while. But most of the game retailers here are bigger companies. Like EB Games is probably one of the biggest ones, and that's, I think they're international. Like I think they're in America as well, and possibly England, if not elsewhere. Another big one we have is called JB Hi-Fi, which is, I don't know if that's international or not. I just don't know. I think it might be an Australian chain, but they do everything. They basically do like washing machines and TVs and all electronic goods basically, as well as they still sell CDs, and I often buy CDs from them because they're one of the only places I can get them. But they sell a lot of video games and computers and consoles and that sort of stuff as well. But again, I'm just looking at their website right now, and they've got, if I wanted to buy Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which came out last year for PlayStation 5, they've got it listed for $109. And that's not even a new game. So,
excuse me, $109?
Yeah. And that's reasonable for Australia. Like that's the thing. Like the context is different. It gets crazy when you look at like deluxe editions, because they've got a pre-order up for a physical version of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the deluxe edition, and that's $170, which is a lot of money. Like I'm not pretending it's not, but it's still, you know, kind of how it is. Like they've got the deluxe edition of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That's a physical one as well, and that's the same price. It's $170. They've got Grand Blue Fantasy for only $84. That's quite cheap. Prince of Persia, the new Prince of Persia is only just out for $69. That's super cheap.
And nice.
So, you know, and that got good reviews too, so it's not like it's a crap game. But so it can vary quite a bit depending on the title, but that's where physical games for me are, there's no benefit to it other than I can understand people who want to have a physical copy so that there's the idea of, you know, if you buy something digital, it can be taken away from you. Whereas if you have a physical copy, you've always got that copy, which I'd say is kind of arguable these days, especially with PC games, because 9 times out of 10, if you put the disc in, it's just going to download it from Steam anyway. Or download it from PlayStation Network or something anyway. So the disc isn't really doing much for you, especially if they delete servers and that sort of thing. But aside from that, that's another little bit of a tangent. But as far as stores go, I feel like the big retailers are the ones who sell games in Australia for physical versions. And it's kind of too expensive for small stores to support it.
Yeah.
Like we used to have a lot more of them, especially through the early 2000s. There were loads of little stores or even bigger chains and stuff who sold physical items. Like there's a chain called Just Game, who I think are in UK as well, maybe elsewhere. They used to be here. We never had GameStop like in America.
Yeah.
But we had another one similar, which had a similar name that was just a different company. Kind of, yeah, like, but not, yeah. But they've all gone by the wayside. They've all, disappeared. Mostly because EB Games, being the big international company that it is, can undercut basically everyone else. So they can sell things cheaper than any other store that tries to set up. And JB Hi-Fi sells more than games. They sell, electronics and CDs and music and movies and TVs and, like I say, fridges and washing machines and all that kind of stuff too. So they supplement their departments with the other departments kind of thing. Oh. And the only other place I can think of outside of that, which is, carries games that are cheap or kind of mainstream prices, would be places like Target or Big W or Kmart, those sorts of big department stores that have like a game section. So they'll have like the new popular whatever games, and they'll be reasonably priced because it's a big department store. Whereas like all the other game stores, especially the ones that just specialized in video games, I wouldn't know where to find one these days, to be honest. I'm sure they exist, but I have no idea where they were. I'd have to do some serious Googling to figure out if there was even one in the same state as me. And yeah, I think it's mostly because it's just not affordable and sustainable anymore. Because for a little store to, the other thing we spoke about was just population differences between, say, Chile even and Australia. So I think our overall population is more than Chile. I think Chile's got like 20 million and we've got about 25.
Yeah, we have around 20 million. And last time I checked, you had 25.
Yeah. So we've got more in total, but we are a much larger country. We are way more spread out. So my closest city has, I think, a population of about 1 million. I'll have to double check that. Let me just maybe it's 5 million. I can't remember. Population. No, 1.3 million is my nearest city that I live by.
Oh.
Whereas I think Santiago has 5.6 million. So, and to be fair, Adelaide, which is the city I live close to, is not the biggest city in Australia. It's quite small compared to other cities. But even if I look at Sydney, which is probably the biggest, that's 5.3 million.
It's still less than Santiago. What the hell?
So when you think about it that way, and Australia, for anyone who doesn't know, we're roughly the same size in land as the continental United States.
Yeah.
So if you think of USA, chop off Alaska and Hawaii, and that's basically roughly, give or take, it's the same size as Australia. But we have 25 million people instead of like 300 million or however many there are in America. So when the point of all these numbers is that if you're going to start a game shop in a city of 1 million people in a country that's spread out as much as Australia is, because to get to the next nearest city, it's like 900 kilometers away, which I'm going to convert for the other people who might be listening. That's about 560 miles, which means nothing to me, but it's 900 kilometers. It's about a 9-hour drive from my house to Melbourne, which would be the closest city other than Adelaide, which is about half an hour from my house. So you're not getting people coming from elsewhere. You're only serving your own city because no one's driving 9 hours to buy a video game from your little store. And
unless they're like really, really dedicated.
Yeah. Well, that's when we get it posted or we'd get it sent,
Yeah.
So then if I'm setting up a game store, I'm serving not heaps of people in the grand scheme of things. I'm a niche store compared to other stores, so my games are going to cost more than EB games or JB Hi-Fi or the big competitors just to pay my rent and just to pay my bills and that sort of thing. So that's basically why all those stores kind of went out of business, because they couldn't afford to stay in business anymore, and they didn't have the high enough population to kind of support them as well. So it's unfortunate, because I'm always a big fan of, smaller business over big corporations, because screw the big corporations, really.
Yep.
But yeah, unfortunately that's the way it is in Australia. I'd love to hear from other Australians if you listen to this going, that's not how it is to here, because I will say one thing that I always remember about Australia is that might be how it is for me in South Australia, where I live in that state, but it could be completely different in a different state or a different city that I don't know about, because there's quite a lot of diversity across Australia, much like there is in America in a big country like that. So I could be wrong when talking about, say, the bigger East Coast cities, but I think it's pretty much going that way anyway, because the prices are the same wherever you go. So yeah, that's that.
Like over here, we have like a little bit of everything. Like there are like a lot of I'm gonna say like hotspots of gaming stores like Paseo Las Palmas. So what I gather, like what they do with some of their games, especially like with the newer releases, is that they are like putting an order together to like get this massive amount of games in, and
Mm-hmm.
pretty much try to get it like a little bit cheaper than other stores. So they can offer like the best prices without like taking too much of a loss there. Um, Besides, if you're like a smaller store here, you have to pay way less to maintain that store, that physical
Mm-hmm.
store, than, for example, we play in Setamar, which are usually the kind of stores that you can find. Well, Setamar not anymore, but we play that you could find them like in a mall or like wherever you find other big stores. Like they have to I guess they had to raise the price of games because they had to pay all the stuff that was like in all the different places, but also they had to pay the places and to get directly the stores art. But the thing that I've noticed about Setamart in particular is that they don't have a lot of stuff to show on stores,
Yeah.
which is weird because WePlay still has like piles of games lying around, like still behind that display glass because no one wants their merchandise to get stolen. But like in a way that the last time I went to a Setamart, it felt so fucking empty. That it was like, why do they even have a store? Because like they have a store, so like people, especially like parents with their kids, like go there and try to buy stuff because like, hey, I wasn't planning like to buy anything, but it seems like the new Zelda game or the new Pokemon game is out or has been out for a while, so why don't I just buy it? Some stores like Flash and Beats focus like on the retro side of things, so they
Mm-hmm.
either buy games and consoles and accessories and stuff like that from other places, and also provide you with the stuff you need to mod it, or like they
Mm-hmm.
sell modded consoles. So they had like their own little niche market that isn't going away like anytime soon. Like if you're a retro collector here in Chile, you had the money because it ain't cheap. Um, there are like smaller like Instagram stores in a way that you can see like on the quote unquote otaku or like anime events, or like even like in there was once this one store like in an illustration fair that it was like, you're not an illustrator. What are you doing here? Oh, is that a copy of the Fire Emblem DS game that I haven't found yet because it is too damn expensive to bring from outside? Oh, and it is like only $20. Okay. Um, so yeah. The other thing is that you have to be careful because the reproduction cartridge market is way out there over here. But anyway,
Yeah.
usually you wouldn't want to buy things like, for example, from big retail stores Though it seems since we're on the middle of summer, there's some kind of sale going on here because I'm sure as heck don't see these prices like every day of the week. Like, oh my god, a game for less than $70. Sorry, this one is actually less than $60. Well, sign me up. Again, we have another store that is called Yupongatana. Is one of my favorites, and I just realized they carry Otome games. Though it seems that they're
Nice.
like behind like a couple of releases. Maybe if I ask them to bring sympathy keys, I could get it for cheaper. But anyway, um, uh, this particular store started like just importing things from Japan, and now they import things from Europe and USA. And they kind of like target a more niche market. So they have like a lot of anime games or like retro stuff and stuff like that. And their prices are really reasonable. Like what I think they do is like, especially when they do something like from, was it Jupungatana? The one that had like the person actually living in Japan and they send stuff? I'm not sure
Oh.
anymore. But one of the stores that import like Japanese stuff actually has a person living in Japan. So um they can actually get stuff from Japan without using a proxy. So they are
Mhm.
like at a huge advantage in the Chilean market because if you use a proxy, you're paying pretty much an arm and a leg because they only use like DHL and what was the other name of the service to send stuff here because God forbids they try to send something via Correos Chile. That is not gonna work. Uh, so yeah, like there are like other stores that don't have a physical store, like Matha Games, so that also cheapens their products quite a bit. And if you pay via like a wire transfer instead of like with WebPay, they give you like a little extra discount because they have to pay to use WebPay, or for each
Mm.
time people use WebPay, pretty much. Um,
Yeah.
so those are pretty nice. And finally, if you are not happy with the things that the smaller store bring, or do you think they're taking too fucking long to get things, like, come on, sometimes I want to get an atomic like at the very least, like at most like a couple of weeks after release. And some of these stores take like months to get them, if at all. Like the last Ochame game this particular store got was Radiant, and that was on August. So yeah. You can also import from Amazon USA, which
Mm.
after with the pandemic they struck a deal with Chile Express, and they offer free shipping for whenever you buy like select products over $50 more or less.
Yep.
So in that way, you only pay for import fees, which they're still high. I think they're like 30% on Amazon at this point. You sometimes get like a small one, a couple of refund, but you'd be lucky in that case. Um, but still, like sometimes just paying like the import fees or like just eating up that cost is way better than trying to buy the game here. Especially if it's like a nature game or like a special edition. Even though like for special editions, if you want to get them like on Amazon, you have to come hard. Like
Yeah.
holy crap, the Shin Megami Tensei 5 like special edition was like live for 5 minutes and it was gone. Uh, so you get luckier with other games that aren't like as, I guess, mainstream in a way, because Shin Megami
Yep.
Tensei 5 was on the eyes of everyone because of Persona 5, and it was like, hey, this actually is a spin-off of this Shin Megami Tensei thing, so I'm gonna buy this. But for games that are like otome games, like the special edition doesn't run out anytime soon, so you're 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 better off like just going on Amazon when the pre-orders drop and do the thing. Um,
Mm.
Sorry, I've been like ranting so much about this.
No, no. I was going to add as well. that I know a lot of people here do use, say, Amazon to buy games, or like if you want secondhand games here, I think you pretty much have to. There's no real stores that carry them. You have to kind of go on eBay, or Facebook Marketplace is quite popular here as well for selling and trading things like secondhand stuff. Like whenever I've had old consoles that I just want to get rid of, I put them on Facebook Marketplace, and that's how I get rid of them.
Yeah.
And sell them that way. Because, there's no real... I think... I want to say that EB Games does carry secondhand stuff, but the amount of money you get for them is, like, pointless. You might as well just sell it yourself to someone who wants it.
Yeah.
Even eBay would be a better option than taking it to a store, because they'll give you, like... I don't know, they'll give you, like, $5 for a game that you could probably sell for $20. So, yeah. But I would definitely be interested... I mentioned it before, but I'd definitely be interested to hear from anyone listening who does buy physical games in Australia, and if I've missed anything or there's some secrets that I don't know about, because I'm more of a digital kind of purchaser anyway. But it's I think a lot of it is obviously dictated by location and where we are, and population and general wealth and income and that sort of stuff, as well as importing as well, because like you talk about importing a lot, and that's something that happens in Australia a lot as well. Is if you want something, most mainstream stuff does come here, obviously, but there are certain games, especially Asian stuff like Japanese stuff and that we would import, but it's actually pretty easy because we're kind of right next door to Asia, so like Japan's not that far away in the grand scheme of things.
By the way, how does it work when you import like used products? Like, do you have to still pay like an import fee, or?
I honestly don't know, and I don't think so.
Because from what price do you have to start paying the import fees? Because that's another big thing.
Yeah, I've got no idea. I used to, before Amazon came along, I used to buy a lot of stuff from eBay and do a lot of trading on eBay and that kind of stuff. Before Facebook Marketplace, before Amazon, I used to sell and buy a lot of stuff on eBay from all around the world. And I don't remember paying anything on anything that I bought. I just kind of bought it. It got sent to me, and that was that.
Lucky, because whenever I buy anything like over 30 USD, 30 USD, I have to pay import fees, and it ain't cheap. Like, holy crap. And 30 USD ain't a lot either. Like, you buy a couple of books and you meet the price, or you buy a single game and it's like, well then, that would be an extra $20.
I mean, I did a quick Google, and apparently anything that's under 1,000 Australian dollars does not require any import taxes.
Holy crap.
Unless it's alcohol or tobacco. But stuff over $1,000, you do need to basically fill out a form and pay, like, I think a 5% import fee.
Only a 5%?
Yep. Apparently, that's what my initial Google tells me, but it could be misinformation for all I know.
Still, I'm jealous. Holy crap.
But then, there's other things as well. Like, I think I've told the story before, but when we didn't have an R rating in Australia, I couldn't buy Mortal Kombat 9, so I bought it on eBay from like an American and had it sent to me in Australia. And then, so effectively I imported it. And then I found out about 6 months later that what I'd technically done was import banned goods, and I could have been fined $10,000.
I can't, like...
So, yeah, there's a whole lot of rules that I don't know about, apparently.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Australia is well known for having like really tight borders for certain things, especially food, because to protect our environment and stuff, we have a lot of, like, you can't take fruit and vegetables interstate because we have a thing called fruit fly.
Yeah, we have essentially,
too. Yeah. So to stop it basically spreading, you can't transport certain goods around the country. You have to kind of, have it where you are, kind of thing. And very much, if you try and enter Australia with any kind of food that's not, vacuum packed and sealed and everything, you're not going to be able to keep it. You're going to have it taken away. So even things like, I know people they've gone overseas and they've come back with like a a thing they bought, like a souvenir that's just made of wood.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's made of wood and potentially has bugs and stuff, they've had it confiscated so that, it doesn't fuck up Australia.
Yeah.
Because we've got things in our environment which are fucking up Australia anyway, which from back in the day when no one really cared. So, but that's a whole different story anyway.
And even some things in Australia are fucking up Australia for all I know, like emus.
Yeah, they're actually native though. White people fuck up Australia more than anything, I guess.
True.
if I'm being honest.
If you ask an emu, that's the answer too. Like,
yeah. But no, one of the main things is cane toads, which is a toad, but they're these big fucking ugly toads. And in the northeastern parts of Australia, like the tropics, it's like a plague. Like they're everywhere.
ooh.
Because they were imported into Australia to basically, the joke is that they were brought in to eat a bug which was eating cane crops, hence the term cane toads. But because the bugs sat on top of the cane stalks and the toads couldn't get to them, it just didn't work. But they bred like crazy and are basically a plague which is spreading across the country very slowly over years and years and years.
God damn it.
It's kind of like you're allowed to kill them as much as you want because they're that prevalent and annoying.
It's kind of like when people were having like a rat problem over in Hawaii because, of course, they introduced rats. And then they brought the mongoose. And the mongoose is a diurnal animal. And the rats were like, well, I guess I'm just going out at night. So they now have a mongoose and a rat problem.
Yep. So, yeah. But that's not video games.
Oh, oops. Whoops.
No, I find all that stuff interesting anyway. But so But yeah, I think if you're a physical gamer, if you buy physical games in Australia, not only are you spending lots of money, but you're going to big corporations to get them, or you're ordering them online.
Yeah.
Secondhand, perhaps.
If you live in Chile, the mom and pop stores are like your best friend over here, or just imported from Amazon.
So, yeah.
Other ways, like there's a good deal here and there, but most of the time, just get it from the smaller store. It's gonna save you lots of money.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I bought physical games here was, I think, EB Games had like a Black Friday sale, like a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was whenever Fallout 4 came out, because the only reason I have that physical is because they were selling it for like $10.
Oh, that's nice.
Same year it was released. So I was like, cool, that's cheaper than I can get anywhere else. I'll buy that. And it was literally a case with the Steam key.
Oh,
so
that's the reason why it was so cheap.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them are like that these days, especially PC games.
True.
Which is part of the reason I don't buy PC games hard copies, because they're just kind of shit. And yeah, I'd rather just wait for a Steam sale and deal with that. So
True.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well then, let us go to the last segment of today's episode. Josh, what have you fragged for the class right now?
Well, I hope you got your thinking cap on, and I hope I haven't used this game on you before. Because we were talking before the recording where I was saying I really need to make a list of all the games that we've guessed, because I'm starting to question whether the games I find on Paula's completion list are ones that we've used before or not.
Whoop.
So I hope this isn't, but you can tell me if it is.
I need to complete more stuff for you to have more options.
But let me see. There's a comment here which I'm like, that might give it away real quick, or it might not, because I don't know the game very well, which is a kind of a clue in itself, I suppose. Is that it's not too familiar to me. But the good thing about this is there are lots of completion comments to choose from, which kind of makes it more difficult as well. So this person did a main story completion that was 21 hours and 30 minutes. And that's, pretty average for this game. A little bit shorter than most, but pretty much on the money.
Mm-hmm.
Their comment was, just the story for first playthrough.
Okay.
Not school mode. Main difficulty on both settings.
Is it Danganronpa?
Maybe.
Is it the second? No, the second one. Which one has a school setting? Fuck it, this is Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc.
It is. I thought they might give it away. Have we done it before?
No, we haven't.
Okay, cool. But yeah, that was one of those comments that I'm like, this is either going to give it to you straight away or it might be a bit confusing.
Yes, the school setting is kind of like, I want to say like a New Game Plus kind of thing, or like either a late game thing or like New Game Plus, because I don't remember shit about the school thing. But I had an inkling that it would be the case, because I do remember the second one having like a mode that I actually played for a little bit, which I don't remember the name of, but it was kind of fun.
Awesome. Well, that was nice and quick and easy then. Well done, Paula.
Yeah.
Golf clap for you. And I'll give you 3 points for you. That puts you on 4 points to my 1 at the moment. So breaking ahead early again.
Is it Trigger Happy Havoc or Happy Trigger Havoc? Trigger Happy Havoc, right?
Trigger Happy Havoc. Yeah, it's always fun when it's a game that I don't know much about. Like, obviously I've heard of Danganronpa, but I've never played them, so I don't know.
Yeah, the games are kind of nuts because of how, like, okay, you walk around this school, but you have trials, and the trials are kind of weird because there's like you have to shoot statements to make an objection, and you have like truth bullets that are like your evidence. And you have to select a piece of evidence, put it in a bullet, and shoot the statement that is on screen. So it's kind of nuts. And also you have mini games for some specific segments of the trial that kind of like help you like come to a conclusion about a certain piece of evidence. So. I don't remember like all the ones like on the first one, but for example, I think the second one was it the second one? I don't remember. You had like Crazy Taxi, which you had to like drive a car and get people in the car and stuff like that. You had like one where you have to spell the word, but you have to kind of like look for the letters in one way or another. I think that one has like multiple iterations. And I think it was in the third one that actually like whenever there's like a split in the group where half of the people think one thing and the other half of the people think the other thing, you have to like kind of like select the arguments to fire like from the people on your side of the field. You have to fire like their arguments to the other people's arguments. It's kind of weird. It makes more sense when you play it, kind of. It's a lot of fun though. So the first one has like a thing that I didn't like as much, but it got like fixed completely on the second game. So yeah.
This is one of those games where I do enjoy the comments because, especially for main story, the times range from 15 hours all the way through to 41 hours.
Holy crap.
And to be fair, the 15-hour one is a replay for that person.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's like 16 hours, 18 hours, so on and so forth. But I love this is my own little thing, really, but I love looking at comments on How Long to Beat. And so there's someone here who did it in 40 hours, and their comment is literally just, how can people finish this in 24 hours?
True.
There's another one which is like, I doubt you can beat it in a shorter time, and they did 30 hours. I'm like, well, you know, some people play faster than others.
I guess it also depends on the version of the game, because from what I remember, like it originally came out in the PSP, but it got localized for the Vita or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, most of these are PC or PlayStation Vita, but there's also some PlayStation Portables, some PS4, some PS5, even Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I think especially games where there's like reading and stuff or dialogue, like they can vary a lot because
yeah,
I've noticed that with like visual novels, like I read pretty quickly anyway.
Mm-hmm.
compared to some other people, and that's fine. It's neither here nor there. But that would change my completion time quite a lot because I might read through it a lot quicker than someone else.
Yeah, between the fact that it is a visual novel, even though it has voice acting, like some people will go and enjoy the voice acting, and others will just press a X whatever as fast as possible. But also, there's the fact that since it is a murder mystery kind of game, it happens with the Ace Attorney games. Like if you already know the answers, or like if you're it is easier for you to think outside of the box sometimes. You will get there faster than if you're not used to that kind of reasoning.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's some certain genres of games that really lend themselves to that. Like, I think I always find point and click games, there's a lot of variance in times.
Yeah.
And because I've played a lot of them and, my brain works that way, I tend to be on the quicker side for those games. But then there's certainly other games where I'm always much, much slower than other people.
True.
But
and also I forgot this has like difficulty settings. If I remember correctly, like you have more options to choose from when you're like trying to see like an inconsistency. You're given like more pieces of evidence, so you have to really think about it.
Okay. Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, cool. Like I say, I've definitely heard of the Danganronpa series. So it is one that every now and then I think, oh, maybe I'll play that, but it'll probably depend on whether I manage to pick it up in a bundle somewhere or not. So
True. It's more available than ever right now because I think it's even like on the Switch, and of course it's on the Steam.
I think, if it ends up on, it might already be there, but if it's on like Game Pass or PlayStation Plus or something, I'll probably give it a go.
I guess that is everything for today. Thank you everyone for listening to us. If you have any questions, suggestions, or just a little comment to leave, you can leave it on the comment section, or you can reach out to us on the HLV, the ATV podcast at gmail.com.
Nailed it.
So yeah. See you everyone. Bye-bye.
So long.